Calling our treasurer, Mr. Bertram, to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Tara Ramsey.
Here.
Mr. Moore.
Here.
Mrs. Stewart.
Here.
Mrs. Schreiber.
Here.
Dr.
I'm here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Moving the flag again. It's behind.
Is it there?
Yeah. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? There are none. Then Mr. Bertram?
Mrs. Ramsey Hunter.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart.
Yes.
Mrs. Schreiber.
Yes.
Dr. Urso.
Yes. Does not appear to be any public participation for this evening, which would bring us to our consent agenda and a motion for approval.
So moved.
Thank you, Anita. And a second? I didn't hear who that was.
Tara.
Tara was. All right. Any questions, comments, anything to highlight, Mr. Bertram, Ms. Hauser, things to bring forward?
I do. So once again, you see contracts in the consent agenda this evening. One of our contracts is for the OG work for Terry Vincent. And really, it's a contract that's submitted each year that allows Terry to instruct other educators outside the district and inside the district and provide them with a credential. Without this contract, they would get the training, but not the credential. So you see that contract. You see a contract for Hamilton County ESC this evening. That's for instructional council. Instructional council is for our curriculum leaders, all of our instructional leaders. They go to monthly meetings down in Hamilton County. Also, this provides for additional supports from Hamilton County when it comes to our curriculum. Warren County ESC, there's a contract on there for speech therapist, OT-PT services. That's for our testing that we have over the summer for our incoming kindergartners or any other student that may require special education services as they enter the district. Something to point out about that contract is if we do not use those hours, we are not billed for those hours. Then we have our personnel agenda. Wanted to highlight a couple things in the personnel agenda this go around. We have the new hires, we have our resignations, but also on this board agenda, you see 167 staff members who participated in the professional development after school. So that's additional pay for them at the district hourly rate. But I really wanted to just say 167 because that's pretty awesome that 167 staff members said they're going to stay after school during summer break and do professional development. And then also wanted to mention there's an MOU with our classified union in the consent agenda this go around. And what you will see in that MOU is just an additional licensure for potential hires in our classified union. It's called a backflow preventer certification. And I don't know if any of you have sprinkling systems in your lawn, but you know exactly what that is. So at the high school, a lot of times we're calling in plumbers with some backups of our pipes, and those plumbers have to have backflow certification. So if we're able to find and hire, which we're looking for a new plumber, our plumber retired, if we can find someone with that backflow certification, this MOU allows us to pay them additional dollars. So that's also on the consent agenda. And that's it on the consent agenda.
I will add in the financial reports, today we did add in the transfers and advances. Wait till I got back from vacation to shore that up today. And the transfers are the money that the general fund will actually pay to additional funds with no money ever coming back. It's just money that we transfer to those funds to cover those funds. And the one traditionally that we do every year out of the general fund is for the athletic salaries and supplementals. And that is creeping up to about $1 million a year. Last year, I think it was $920,000. This year, it looks like it's going to be right in that range as well. I did put $1 million on here to give me a little cushion in case another one comes in between now and the 30th. And then the other three on here are transfers coming from the athletic advertising account where they raise funding to pay for other sports that didn't have enough in their accounts, which was esports. Music choir was in there. I believe there was a mistake where all the collections that came in for choir and musical esports actually were put into the athletic account and weren't put into these appropriate accounts. But anyhow, it's a transfer to pay for those. If I find out it went to another account, we'll make an adjustment and fix it. But it's so these accounts don't end up in a negative balance. And then at the bottom, I left you each a paper so you saw beside this, sorry, didn't mention that, are the advances. And in the forecast, I did budget $1,350,000 in advances. I don't think it will be more than that. It will come in probably a couple $100,000 less than that. But you can see the general fund accounts to the specific grants that are being advanced. Again, because they have negative balances, because they're reimbursed with project cash requests. But all the advances will be paid back when we open up the new books in July.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions on that? Any questions on the consent agenda? No. I just want to echo with Ms. Hauser, all the teachers that stuck around to do professional development, and I always like to raise up Ms. Vincent, what she does with OG for our district and be able to train our teachers, but then also to help other districts too. She is a valued resource for our district.
She sure is.
There's nothing else. Are we ready to vote on consent agenda?
Yes.
All right, then Mr. Bertram.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Shiver?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes.
And Mrs. Ramsey Hunt?
Yes.
All right. That brings us to business and transportation, the school resource officer SRO contracts. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. I'll leave this to our treasurer and our superintendent to provide an overview. I know that we received information on these contracts, and
So-
allow my colleagues to ask questions.
So the contract that you did receive to review was the same contract that we had in place last year, except for we're moving from 5 SROs to 4 SROs. And the reason we're going down 1 SRO is simply because Highview. Highview is closing, and our 6th graders are staying in the elementary buildings. So if you reviewed the contract, if you would go through, it just, the updates from 5 to 4, and then you saw the updated pricing on the last page. Also wanted to point out on page 7, there was some new language added to the contract, and that new language simply states that next year, if everything is going as planned and we have the finances, that we're able to extend this contract for an additional year without going through all the different protocols and compliance pieces to extend the contract. I would like to point out that we did meet with the city. We met with the city managers. We met with the chief of police, the gentleman that oversees the SROs. We met with them 3 different times to make sure that this contract was what everyone was looking for and what would work for both parties. The city has reviewed it, and we're all on the same page. So we are good to go.
Thank you.
So what questions about the SRO contract? We will have the 4 SROs that remain. We will be keeping the same SROs except for one, and that SRO, Officer Maxwell, will be going to another school system in Middletown.
So the current SROs, where are they located at this point? Just for folks in the community to know where they're actually, the buildings that they serve.
Sure. We have one at the high school, we have one at the middle school, and the other 2 share 3 different elementary buildings.
And the additional cost of having that one other officer, I know in this particular contract, because we were at 6, we're going now to down to 4. And one of the things here too that I'm concerned about is there's probably very few contracts that gets the public attention as SROs. So I just want to make certain that when we look at this contract tonight, that we're able to justify this vote leaving out of this room. I know that there's been a lot of work. I started asking early on about this particular contract, probably in January. I asked a lot of questions about when this was coming, and to be honest, you know, I was hoping that I would get some information along the way, and that did not necessarily occur. I know that there was a lot of work that was done early on to make this contract work, and I know that there was additional expenses about that. But what I'm thinking is that instead of going down to this 4 number at this point, we're just now making the transition with going over from Central to Highview. I mean, are we certain this is where we're at? Is this certain where we're at right now with 4 officers? Because the feedback that I get already from folks looking at this contract is you're heading in the wrong direction. And I've got to say that I'm a little concerned about going down to 4 at this point. I recognize that we're going through redistricting, and I recognize that the costs have gone up. We talked a little bit about that. But, you know, again, there's got to be an exchange of value when it comes to folks in this community paying record high property taxes. We're in an election year where we're out supposed to be campaigning to, making certain that we're representing this district. I can tell you this is not resonating well. And I don't know if we're really at the point where we need to go to 4. I know that we've talked about, moving kids back, and that's all fine. But when folks look at this contract and they start to lose faith in what we're doing, and they're paying record high property taxes for that, and they say that they want safety in this district, then that's what they should get. And I think that we should be listening to that. So should it not be the case that in this transition, since we've not tested this new transition, we haven't even put this into practice yet. We've made these changes. We're going to implement those changes this year. I mean, it's not going to break Middletown City Schools to kind of broach this issue a little differently with 1 additional officer. I'm not certain that we should be going down to 4 at this point. I've listened to the arguments. I understand that. But I'm also listening to folks tell me that they don't really want to stomach 4 officers. It just does not resonate with folks. And for me personally, since we're making a transition in this district, I want to make certain that, I don't see what 1 year is going to hurt to test the waters. I'm not saying that I wouldn't come back next year and make a completely different case. Okay? It may be the fact that we can survive with no issues and everyone does a perfectly fine job at 4 officers. But we're making a transition right now. We haven't even tested this transition. And then we're just going straight to 4 officers. I know there's additional costs, but it may be an opportunity to work with our city on this contract a little differently. I also understand there's been a lot of work done on the contract, and I appreciate that work, and I know it's a headache. I really do. But I'm just being honest with you. I've been doing this a while, and I want to continue to serve, but when we're facing record inflation, high property taxes, I shouldn't have to overstate the case that when folks say that they want an exchange of value for safety, that's what they want. And, unless you can persuade folks otherwise, I think we need another year to kind of think this through. As I said, we may come back a year from now, and this may be where we're at. And this may be where we're at. I don't know. But I do struggle with going down to 4.
Are you able to provide any history? Like, I know that we received some grant money, I don't know how many years ago, that increased the number of SROs. Like, because when we started on the board...
Yeah, we started there were no grants available.
No grants.
No, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, 10 years ago, how many SROs did we have in our district? 5 years ago, how many SROs did we have in our district? And now, like, do we know that progression?
Yeah, we had 3.
3.
And then with ESSER, we
Pre-COVID.
jumped to the 6.
And so
We reduced to
ESSER's...
5 last
Yes.
year. Yeah, ESSER
Okay.
helped pay for
So
those. ESSER
prior
was the
to-
grant money that paid
So
for
we're
it.
1 more than we were prior to
Prior to
COVID.
COVID,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
So 4 is, 1 more.
That was the essence of my question. I worded it
Correct.
awkward.
And I
Yeah.
think the cost is high using the Middletown Police, but would people be just as happy having SRO officers from somewhere? Is there an advantage to going with the Middletown Police Department versus getting a lesser price and having other personnel? And that's another option, too.
I think folks want to see our district support our police, and they want to see our police support our kids. I think that's really where that's my read on our district and our community. I think they want to see there's a great relationship with Middletown Police, and our Middletown Police do a great job working with our kids. And I understand the additional expense, but as I said, when we're in a situation where folks are looking at public schools in transition. And if you had to rank order things that they really want to see their tax money going towards, this is going to be one of those issues that are at the top of the list for folks, particularly here in Middletown. And, you know, again, we may look at this data next year and we may say this is where we're at, you know, and that very well could be the case. But just being practical for a moment here, thinking about the transition that we have, ESSER or not, folks want to see us make investments in our SROs. And I think that's a fair argument to be made. So for me, I would not be in support of this contract tonight. I believe that we need a 1 year to look at this and to see how this plays out in practice. And if it takes another round at the negotiating table to look at those numbers, I doubt very much the city of Middletown is going to be disappointed that we want an additional officer. I think there may be some room there for us to work together. But I think it's in all parties' best interest if we can maintain 5, test it this year. If we don't need the extra officer, then it's going to speak for itself. And there's no need to continue down these arguments about what we need and don't need. We'll have the data that we need to make the decision. But I would not be in support tonight. I can't do it. I would not be able to support this tonight.
A question in regards to prior to COVID, and again, we're not in the buildings on a daily. Is there a need, or from your vantage point, from your fiscal vantage point, in terms of value in regards to 3 prior to COVID, 6, 5, and now the proposed 4? Any ideas on where you would believe the sweet spot would be? Is this the sweet spot in regards to your expert opinion from the superintendent perspective?
Well, if you consider the people that were sitting at the table as we had the 3 different meetings, you know, you had your city managers, your chief of police, the gentleman that oversees the SROs, and then we also worked with our lead SRO, Marco Cato. So we've talked to all of our principals. So everyone in that room felt like going to 4, safety was still number 1, and we
Okay.
could support the safety of the district. Now, let's just go back. Every building would love an SRO. I mean, let's just be honest. They would all love one. We would love it for one to be in every building. But safety is number 1, and we are all on the same page there, Mr. Moore. But all parties sitting at that table, 3 different meetings, agreed that the 4 would cover the district.
Cover the district.
And also with the returning SROs, there is a relationship with the SROs that we currently have where they are working together. So if there's an issue in one building, they're able to go and support an SRO. But 4, we could cover the district in 4. You also have a point, Mr. Moore. You know, we're going to K through 6 in our buildings. That hasn't been tested, but everyone in the that conference room felt like 4 would be good.
And on the opposite, like we would come mid-year, some point of next year, and we find that there's not enough support, would there be a chance to add an officer after we would support this contract or not support this contract? So come mid-first semester of next year, and we notice that maybe we could use some additional support, is there room within this contract to go and request that support?
When we work with Middletown Police Department, they have never turned us down when it comes to additional SROs. I mean, they see the value also. So when we added from 3 to 6, it was a non-issue.
Okay.
When we went from 6 to 5, right. So they've been very cooperative. So I would not see any problems with adding an additional officer.
So some
Yeah.
point next year, if some issue came up, we would be able to go back to them and have a conversation.
I'm sure we could go back mid-year
Okay.
if it was an issue.
All right.
Well, I can almost guarantee it's going to be an issue first thing leaving this meeting, that it will be one of the most widely talked about topics. You can almost bet that it will be. And there's a difference between what we need and what we're willing to pay for. I understand that, you know, we probably could make 3 work, you know, might even be able to make 2 work. But that doesn't necessarily mean that is going to solve the issue from folks out here that are asking us to make the types of investments that they want to make in this district. And folks really value having an additional officer. And they've certainly made that very clear to me. They read these contracts. I've had a number of people reach out to me about this contract already. And you can rest assured tomorrow, if not after this meeting, or if folks are not watching it now, as soon as we vote this for 4, you can be pretty confident that we just cut public safety. That's going to be the message coming out of this room, is that we're not valuing public safety at the level that we should, despite whatever arguments are made. That's going to be the perception. And what I'm saying is, if we don't want to go down that route with perception, and we really want to look at where we're at, I would think that 1 year, having one officer, an additional officer, I don't think the sky's going to fall if we try to go down that path. At least that's my perspective. I personally think that it may be a little overreach to have one in every building, but I don't see, when we start to get down to 4, we're spreading folks a little bit thin. And I don't see it, and it very well may be the case that next year, the data speaks for itself. But I would be in favor of trying to go to 5 if that conversation could be addressed financially. You know, talk with the district or talk with the police and see where we land. I understand the expenses. If I'm correct, to be fair, the 4 is the cost of the 5 is where we're at right now. So it certainly has gone up. And that has not been an easy conversation. I think folks that are listening need to understand that as well. What we're paying for right now by going 1 less is the cost of what we would have paid for 5 officers, 4 for
Just
5.
to be fair, it's a little bit less.
Okay.
than 5, once they relooked at the contracts, but there was a 15% increase in personnel costs alone from last year to this year. So.
And I want to say this respectfully. I mean, I understand that you guys have put a lot of work into this. I really do. I know that the right people are at the table making that decision, and I appreciate all the work that went into that decision. I really do. But I also understand the complexity out here knocking on doors in 90-degree heat, asking folks to support me and telling me these are some of the things that are on their mind. You know, and I've got a little bit different attitude right now because this district has to move forward. Okay, that's the bottom line. And here we are talking about all sorts of issues. Safety is an issue in this community. Folks want their money going into safety. And I don't know what else we're supposed to say about that. So I would not, at this point, unless others can persuade me otherwise, you go back and talk with the police and, hey, we've got this settled. I just want to assure you guys that I don't think it's going to go over well to go down to 4. And I really don't want to go there. I really don't.
Todd, just out of curiosity, understanding that they've had the conversations, understanding there would be an opportunity to add if we needed to add, if we were underserved, what would be the risk involved, understanding that we would approve this contract with the idea that we could go back to the table at the beginning of the year if it wasn't supported?
I think it's a fair point. I do think it's a fair point. The problem that I have with it, though, is that what I'm proposing is essentially testing the waters here. We've got this transition in the district. We have redistricting right now. We test this in real time. And, you know, going halfway with all the other issues that come up with funding and salaries and the whole gamut of things where folks are asking for money, you know, we start off with that potential conversation going up being a little bit of a risk. And where we're at here, as opposed to starting our current school year and testing this, really putting it into practice for a year, you know, we know where we land. But I think it's a fair point, Chris. I really do.
Where were we,
Is your mic
so we
on?
had,
Yeah.
it's red, I don't know. Where were we, I guess that was 2019, when we were at 3 SROs?
Pre-COVID.
What was our student, did we have more students then than we have now?
We did,
So our student body is less now?
yes,
And we've got less schools now by 1.
yes.
Correct.
And what was the thinking when we went from 3 to 6, besides we had the money to do it? Was there any, you know, analysis or needs, or why did we double our number besides the money? Do either of you remember?
I really, no.
I
know
do. That was a time
additional-
where schools were being broached by
School shooting.
shootings, a lot of that was going on.
So that
at
was
the time in the
heightened at
country.
that time?
Yeah, a lot of that was happening, so security was very, very high on everyone's list. And Mr. Stiles at the time wanted to bring in the SROs for additional security to help us through that. And then he was also using them for educational purposes. I forget, he had one year around, he had other purposes that he was using them for within the community for our kids. And, but the main reason was the security, making parents feel better because of all the security issues going on within the country at that time.
Okay.
I would also like to mention, since 2019 to currently, we've implemented the Raptor security system, all the additional cameras, so the badging in and the badging out. So our safety and security measures have also been upped since pre-COVID. So not just the SROs, but everything that we've implemented in the buildings.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Other questions, comments, thoughts?
I'm ready to vote.
Ready to vote? Mr. Bertram, ready to
Mrs.
vote?
Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes.
Mrs. Ramsey Hunter?
Yes.
And Mr. Moore?
No.
All right, that brings us to district committee reports. Any committees, Ms. Hauser, meet and anything to report about?
Committee work is slow over the summer. No
It is.
committee work.
Okey-doke. And Board of Education reports, Ms. Ramsey Hunter, anything to report on this evening?
No.
Mr. Moore, anything to share?
No comments.
No comments? Ms. Stewart?
I think I want to invite everybody to participate in Middletown Rocks.
That's right,
This
26th.
Thursday,
Yeah.
June 26th, we'll have one of our own, Collie Jones, Coach Jones, performing. It's going to be a really fun night, VIP at the Windermere at 5 o'clock, Sorg event at 7. It is the event of the year, so please come out and support if you are able. Butler Tech has successfully made the transition from superintendent, so that baton has been pretty much handed off, even though I think John is still there through the end of I want to say July, the school year. But things are going well at Butler Tech. That's all I got.
Yay, thank you.
No comments
No
tonight.
comments tonight. I just had two quick questions. One about the bus garage. Any updates in regards to
That's
one?
only my update.
Was it? Ah, then I always steal thunder, and I'm sorry for that. So I won't ask that. And the same thing with the.
My update is, there is
There's
no
no
update.
update.
I don't
Ah.
have any new
Yeah.
Okay.
information from our last meeting.
And then with the connector between the middle and high school, any new news?
Nothing to,
Yeah.
well, I was going to say nothing to update. I mean, it is moving and it's in the plans. Yeah.
Is that work that will happen over the summer, or will that lead into the school year?
It's most likely going to lead into the school year because we're starting to make the plans for where the buses drop students off and how they get into the building. So that will go on during the school
Any
year.
idea on how long a project that is? And again, these are, I don't expect answers, just only if you do.
Gosh. I think it's 6 months.
6
But
months, so it'll
don't
run the
take my
majority of the
word
school
for
year.
that. Yes.
All right,
Yeah,
don't
I think it's 6 months.
Okay, all right. Good, that's all I have. Mr. Bertram, anything?
Nothing else?
Nothing
Oh,
else?
okay. So I'd like to say this is the 47th year of Safety Town. So speaking of our SROs, right? So that's Officer Fugate, Officer Maxwell, our students entering into kindergarten. And it's not just Middletown City School students. It's students from the area out at Mayfield Elementary this year. If you ever have a chance to just pop by, there's a mini city in the gym where our youngest learn the safety rules of the street, and that's led by our SROs, Chris Fugate and Officer Maxwell. So that's a celebration. Every week we're graduating probably about 40 students, 40 little ones
One
from
of the
Safety
best
Town.
memories little ones have, I think.
It is.
It's Safety Town.
I'm a product of Safety Town.
It's still going on, 47 years.
Now, as far back as you can go for a memory.
Yeah. I'll raise up Officer Davis, who we've named
That's
the
right.
entry.
Yes.
Yeah, he was, so many people, he touched so many lives. There's nothing else. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So
Motion
moved.
to-
I don't know who got in there first. I'll let you decide.
I think Terry.
All right. And a second?
I need to.
Then I'll be second.
All right.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Have a good night. Stay